Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge. It's the start of another week. It could be a very big week in the transfer window because we've got some big news coming in this morning. Some potentially shocking news actually. A £30 million, not a £30 million bid. A bid has gone in for Sander Berge. Manchester United also bidding for Ugarte. Fabrizio Romano saying Manchester United would like maybe 2 more transfers done before the end of the transfer window. Does that mean, based on that previous information, that we are bidding for Sander Berge and Ugarte? I've got a big warning on Sander Berge actually, and we'll go through it factually as to why I don't think he's that good. But, you know, I'm not the CEO. Maybe this is what the scouting's all about, finding a diamond in the rough. We're also going to talk about what the latest is with Scott McTominay this morning, and also as well the Branthwaite to Liverpool stuff, which I dismissed last night as complete and utter nonsense. There is actually truth to it. Could Jarrad Branthwaite be signing for Liverpool, having been Manchester United's priority left-sided centre-back target this summer transfer window? We've also got updates for you around the striker situation, and as well with regards to potentially getting 2 or 3 outgoings this week as well. So loads to get into this morning. Where should we start? Well, I suppose the best place for us to start is probably around Manchester United, and just a little bit of positivity this morning. It's the start of a new week. We've got 3 points. And I wanted to wait until Monday to do this because we're going to talk about transfers, but we're also the United Stand, the biggest United fan community in the world, probably the biggest football community in the world. And yes, we get dragged into debate and conversation, but I thought over this Premier League weekend, now it's basically done. I know we've got Spurs-Leicester tonight, but it's basically been done. Manchester United won on Friday night, and I absolutely think that some of the reaction, some of the stuff before the game, some of the stuff during the game was completely and utterly ridiculous. I will never say it's unacceptable because people have the right to have a decision, but ridiculous. Ex-players, the media, during the game, after the game, before the game, lucky Man United, just complete and utter negativity. It's the start of the season. You've seen VAR this weekend. We'll be talking about that at midday on the Premier League review show on That's Football. But there is so much to be negative about in relation to real life football. You know, look at Raheem Sterling's embarrassing statements. At least we've not got a United player doing that. So Manchester United conceded less shots, as I said in the match reaction on Friday. Less shots than we did against Wolves last year. Should have scored 3 or 4 goals. It wasn't perfection. We still are missing 2 or 3 signings down the spine, whether it's through fitness or they're not here yet. And yet we thoroughly deserve to beat Fulham. It wasn't vintage Man United. Very, very far from it. We deserved to win a game of football at Old Trafford. We weren't lucky. For God's sake, it's the first game of the season. We've got a new ownership. Let's just have a bit of positivity. It wasn't perfect, but people trying to throw stones and throw mud at it, hoping it will stick. Maybe look in the mirror at what your real issue is and grow a pair and actually tell people instead of hiding behind negativity about, oh, we were lucky. You know, if Gary Neville wants Ten Hag out, say it. Maybe he just had a bad tummy because he was very, very irritable on Friday talking about De Ligt, wasn't he? Tell us the truth, Gary. Somebody else tell us the truth. What's your real issue with Man United? Because picking apart Friday night, for me, I just think it's a positive game. Look, they might get their way against Brighton. It's a tough one. Let's get into the show. So we're going to talk off, first of all, about this Sander Berge bid. Could it be that Manchester United want Ugarte and Sander Berge? Well, look, we'll talk about McTominay in a bit. We spoke a lot about McTominay yesterday. There are some developments around there. A bit of a bidding war potentially going on. But Simon Jones in the Daily Mail, who was the journalist who broke the story about Branthwaite every single time, he's saying that Man United have bid for Sander Berge, but it's well short of the £30 million price that Burnley want. Also, Man United still are prioritising Ugarte, but they need the price to come down from PSG. So what does that actually mean? I mean, I think most of us will always say Ugarte and Berge, yes please. Ugarte and Amrabat, yes please. I mean, basically, it's like getting a Ferrari and them saying, do you want a cuddly toy with it? Or do you want a packet of crisps with it? I mean, yeah, I will. Why not? I mean, I'm not in love with the signing Sander Berge, and I'll talk about why in a moment, but I'm not going to say no to having 2 midfielders because I think more depth in that area, yes please. But simple maths to me don't make sense on this one. Is this Sander Berge bid Why is it going in? It concerns me a little bit because what if Burnley had accepted it? Do we abandon the Ugarte deal? I don't understand the logic of it, and I don't understand the financials of it. So if we bid for Sander Berge 20 million and Burnley had said yes, where's the money coming from for Ugarte? And would we have just walked away? Because that terrifies me, really. If we seriously think that Sander Berge is a replacement alternative to Ugarte, then I find that absolutely shocking because they're so different players as well. I don't think people understand what Sander Berge actually is. I think they think he's some sort of number 6 defensive monster, which he certainly isn't. If anything, he's probably better more progressively than he is defensively. So I get the whole let's go for both. I don't like the idea of Berge being the replacement for Ugarte. But if we're going for both, where are we getting the 60, 70 million pounds to buy both when we haven't got the 50 million pounds to buy Ugarte? So I don't really understand the financials, but that doesn't mean that it wouldn't happen. So this morning, breaking news, Simon Jones, journalist, saying that Man United have bid for Sander Berge. They do want Ugarte, but Burnley want £30 million for Sander Berge. So I don't know how that works. I'm not opposed to bringing 2 in, but I don't really know how that works. Now, Fabrizio Romano has said, now remember, we've got Fabrizio on the show at 2 o'clock today, so we'll be going through all of this with him anyway. But what Fabrizio has had to say this morning is that Manchester United want to add at least 1 more player. It could be 2. Well, look, I don't use that as breaking news that Man United want to buy 1 more player. If we don't bring 1 more player in, we're absolutely done. I watched the Premier League weekend. I'm sure you did as well. I know, despite what I've just said about what we did against Fulham, if that's first game of the season, that's our midfield. There's no new signing there. That's Casemiro, Mainu, Bruno. There is no new signing there. I can look at the defence and go, yep, there's development there. Yoro's injured. De Ligt didn't start. Hopefully we'll get a left back. I can look up front and go, no Højlund, no Xerxes. But I look at that midfield, it is what it is. It's Casemiro, Mainu and Bruno, and that's our best midfield. And the alternatives are terrifying, really. You've got a kid in Collier who I think is probably our best option, but he won't be ready yet. Eriksen, McTominay and Mason Mount. So I look at that midfield, and although it played well against Fulham, I don't think it's got that many more gears to go up in, considering I think Casemiro is probably playing on his limit at the moment, albeit playing well. I don't see that midfield doing much in the Premier League, maybe 4th place at best. So, yeah, I think we can safely say that if we weren't bringing another signing in, I'd be terrified. We have to get midfielders in, and we have to get Ugarte in. I'm sure we will. After him, with him, if we can get another midfielder, great. I think, Man United want to bring at least 1 more player in. It could be 2. Ideally, I would actually spin that as a slight negative. Man United want to bring 1 player in, maybe 2. I would be saying Man United want to bring 2 in, hopefully 3, because I think we need 2 midfielders and a left back. It's funny because I've seen some people putting pictures up of Ivan Toney as being maybe 2, and I'm like, what are you talking about? If we get Ugarte, the next signing can't be Ivan Toney. We absolutely need a left back, and I still think we need another midfielder. I think United will get 3 more players in. I don't have that from any credible source, but I think United will get 3 players in. I think we'll get 2 midfielders and a left back. I still think that has to be the plan, and I think that is what we will do. So Fabrizio saying 1, maybe 2. I actually think 2, maybe 3. Let's talk about Scott McTominay. I want to go back to Sander Berge, though, because I want to just throw something into the show that I'm not massively about statistics, but I don't think people actually really understand much about Sander Berge. And I've been quite negative about the signing, and I want to explain why. And the best way to do that, where it's not opinion, is to throw a few comparisons in to a few different players from last season. So we'll go through that in a minute, because I think people think Sander Berge is like Palhinha or Rodri or Prime Casemiro, and he simply isn't. So we'll go through that in a moment. But the latest on Scott McTominay we had last night was that Fulham are back in the race and are seriously in. That was coming out from Sky. Fabrizio Romano has said this morning, Fulham's interest in Scott McTominay is still very strong, and they're still in the conversations. So look, that's in addition to what we had from Sky. Now, look, I don't rate Sky Sports. Slow Sports News, we all know that. But as I've said to you a couple of times over the last few weeks, if it's anything to do with Fulham, I would listen to Sky. They've got very good sources into Fulham. And I can't remember why, but they have. I don't think Fulham's the closest place to Sky Sports Studios, but they've always had quite good connections with Fulham. So, yeah, I would follow that. I would follow that. And the fact that Fabrizio is saying it as well is interesting. However, another interesting update from Fabrizio around Scott McTominay, we were speaking about this yesterday actually, was that Manchester United would not entertain a loan deal for Scott McTominay. They don't see the point, and absolutely applaud that. I mean, I don't think that this Man United ownership is stupid, and I certainly don't think that you're stupid. And we were talking about it yesterday. What would there is no value in loaning Scott McTominay, and that might sound a bit silly because I'm not his biggest fan. I think he's very limited for a top 4 club, which is what we want to be. But he has a value off the bench, throw in the box, he might score a goal. Why would you give that away for free for a season? Like, if somebody wants that, they can give us the money for it so that we can go and get something else. There is a value to Scott McTominay, not as a first team player, but as a bench option that you throw into the mix to maybe score a goal. You're not going to give that away to somebody for free for a year. We want some money for it so that we can improve the team elsewhere. And that's effectively what we're trying to do here. If he was completely useless, you just loan him, free transfer, whatever. He has air value, not as a first teamer. So you take the value and you replace it with something that improves your team. And that's what Manchester United are trying to do. So we're not loaning Scott McTominay. We won't loan him. The club won't loan him. And I completely and utterly agree with that because he has a value. And I think, I don't know whether he's going to improve Napoli, but I certainly think as we analysed Fulham for the Friday night game, they're a team that puts a lot of crosses in the box. And Scott McTominay, like Harry Maguire, is good in the air. So Fulham want them both for 50 million. Let's have a bid. But certainly, I think that's the way to go. Man United need to get Ugarte, Amrabat, Rabiot, Atora as our left back, as we would be long term. Not Chilwell is injury prone, says Ben. If we take Ben Chilwell from Chelsea, we've made so many steps forward this summer. That would be a huge step back. Ben Chilwell from Chelsea will be injured by Christmas. It'll be on stupid money and it'll be an absolute waste of time. And trust me, watching Chelsea over the last 18 months, you don't become a successful football club by buying Chelsea rejects. Theo, welcome to Members Club. You're an absolute legend. Keel saying Rabiot and Amrabat is more logical every day, in my opinion. I mean, you know what? I've heard nothing about Man United and Rabiot, but I've heard nothing about Rabiot either. Still an agent. Liverpool may make a move, but that was a week ago. I don't know where Rabiot ends up. He seems to be very relaxed. No pre-season for Rabiot, though. Sean Turner says, I don't see Ugarte coming in. I think Casemiro is the starting midfielder and Berge is back up to him. Wrong decision, but they aren't going to bench Casemiro. Too much of an expensive asset. We will pay the price of that, Sean. I respect Sean, and there's probably a lot of people agreeing with it. Some people might even quite like it. As somebody who is a massive, massive fan of Casemiro, I also was a massive fan of Wayne Rooney, and at the end I said it was time to go for 18 months. You're not a great player forever, and some people refuse to see the deterioration, and I can see it. Defensively, he ain't got the legs for it. He's fine on the edge of the box. Casemiro will be playing passes like he did to Bruno. The one where Bruno should have scored. What a wonderful pass that was. He'll be playing that pass at 52 on a beach in Brazil. He'll be playing that pass at 60 on a holiday in Dubai. He'll be playing that pass at 70 in a Brazil Legends World Cup exhibition. Like, he will never lose the ability to play that pass. Paul Scholes had hit that pass now. Like, you never lose your ability to play a pass like that, because a pass is something very different to running around on a football pitch and, when you've lost your legs. And, well, we saw it with Scholes and Giggs. Paul Scholes and Giggs were playing into their late 30s. They nowhere near had the legs they had in the late 20s. So, look, I agree with you, Sean. Maybe Man United will make a financial decision and they'll drop out of the Ugarte deal and stick with Casemiro. But I have a horrible feeling, and I'd love to be wrong, if Man United don't get Ugarte and stick with Casemiro for the season, I think by Christmas that could be a reason why people are saying Ten Hag out. Not because Casemiro gets Ten Hag out the job, but because either he gets injured or he ain't quick enough or whatever, and we start losing midfield battles, and we get, we lose a lot of points. I think Ugarte is essential. And I'll spin it into a positive, Sean, because I'm feeling positive this Monday morning. I think Ineos, Ten Hag are absolutely tunnel visioned on Ugarte as being the midfielder that they want. And I think they will think the same thing I've thought. Remember, Sean, Casemiro, United wanted to sell. They wanted him gone. 100%. With Varane, they wanted him off the wage bill and gone. The fact that he's playing games is because we haven't got Ugarte. We won't stop trying to get Ugarte just because Casemiro's decided he's staying, because that's not the way Ineos are going to move. I still think there's a slim chance, like I said last night, that Casemiro might go anyway. But we won't stop going for Ugarte just because Casemiro's decided he's going to stay, because that's Glazonomics. That's like, well, this player refuses to go, so we won't progress. And that's not what Ineos want to be about, in my opinion. Would you take Goretzka for our midfield, says Florian? Apparently he has no space at Bayern under company. We can't always play Mainu. I do like Goretzka, but as I say, it's very late in the window to start pivoting. Considering we've had many talks with PSG and Casemiro is likely to stay, do you think Mendes and Amrabat is better than just Ugarte? Nuno Mendes and Amrabat is better than just Ugarte. I do like Mendes. I've never heard anything about us going for him, Simon. And look, if we didn't get Ugarte, I'm not going to sit here and say I'd rather have nothing. I do think that if you could get a left back out of PSG, then why wouldn't you do that? But it's completely and utterly fantasy. I think the Berge bid is bargaining chip against PSG, basically saying if they don't drop the Ugarte price, we have a backup, says Liam. And do you still talk to Ants? No, I don't, Monty. Morning, Mark. These hating bots on X are cancer, says Liam. I don't read replies, Liam, so I don't know what's going on. Zach Johnson, welcome to Members Club. And David Harrington says, Amrabat played 30 games, 17 starts, playing 5 at left back. He wasn't good enough 90% of the time. Teams went through us like a bad curry all season, says David. And Michael said, it wasn't vintage United, but I enjoyed it. So pleased football is back in relation to last night. And Ugarte and Casemiro could play together. It may be a bit defensive, but the steal they provide could be valuable against Liverpool, Arsenal and City, says Muyad. And Casemiro can't play 60 games either, says Stuart. Hi, Mark and United stand. Romano tweeted, Bayern are pushing for Goretzka out. Would you take him? I think it's another option we could look at, says Jay Harris. And Conor Gallagher has his bags packed, just staying, says Harvey Spector. Signed Ferdy, Kadioglu and Ugarte. Anything past that point is gravy, says Z3 Music Official. Thank you very much. Right, okay, let me talk to you about this Branthwaite story, and then I want to go back to Standard Berge and just give you a bit of comparison stuff that might open a few eyes. Last night on the Sunday night show, there was a comment about Liverpool and Branthwaite, which I actually thought, well, there'll be some story about that, but it'll be a big load of shite. I thought I'd bring it into the news show because it is a news show and Branthwaite is a player that United have bid twice for and really, really do want. The chances of us signing him, I would say, are thin, but there is still talk, as we spoke about on Saturday and the week before, that Man United would do a deal with Everton if Everton wanted to, and a third bid could still go in the final week. Let's be honest, Everton are a bit of a shambles at the moment. So, yesterday, Liverpool's odds on signing Branthwaite tumbled massively. So what did I do? Well, I got in contact with a couple of Liverpool contacts, and you can actually see it anyway on a couple of Liverpool credible websites about what's happened here. That this is genuine. Like, Liverpool are odds on to sign Branthwaite, or they were last night. So what would your thoughts be on that, first of all, as a United fan, if we lost Branthwaite to Liverpool? Because honestly, I would probably laugh. You can't win them all. Like, I wanted Fabinho, he went to Liverpool. We wanted Fabinho for 2 years before Liverpool bought him. I remember doing videos on this channel 2 years before he went to Liverpool. He was playing at right back for Monaco, and we were talking about him for about £12 million because he was a George Mendes client when Mourinho came in. So look, Fabinho ended up at Liverpool. Nunez, I would have took him, went to Liverpool. Mane went to Liverpool. You know, Jota, I think we were talking about him, went to Liverpool. There are players, McAllister would have took him, went to Liverpool. So look, Liverpool are, over the last 10 years, been in a better situation than us. And if they buy a player that we want, it's not going to be anything new. We've got De Ligt, we've got Martinez, we've got Yoro. If Liverpool bought Branthwaite, if it actually happened, my reaction would be, oh well. I wouldn't be like, oh my God. Gravenberg's another one, says Oleg. I'd be disappointed because obviously Ineos want him. But if he went to Liverpool, I wouldn't be bothered massively because these things happen. I think the funny thing would be Everton. If you're telling me that Everton would rather sell Jared Branthwaite to Liverpool over Manchester United, you're having an absolute laugh. And in some ways, if it did happen, it would be quite funny because Everton could have done a deal with us, don't do a deal with us, and then end up losing him to their biggest rival. So it would be funny in that sense. But let's give you the real story behind this. Liverpool are not signing Branthwaite. Apparently this is just... I'm trying to get the words out because I was told this and I didn't take any notes. Apparently this is quite common, whereby betting companies can create a scenario for column inches around a shock transfer that will generate a load of, interest, potentially in articles that they put out or just generally in the market that they're operating in. That's what's coming out of Liverpool sources, is that there is no genuine story around this, and that also because Manchester United have had what is effectively a £50 million bid thrown out instantly, Liverpool would have to find at least £60 million to sign Branthwaite, which they don't want to do. So from a Liverpool point of view, it's a load of bollocks. However, the odds have tumbled. So I suppose it's a warning in a sense that, you don't listen to bookies in relation to transfer odds because there might be other things going on behind it. But that is genuine. Like the odds on Branthwaite have tumbled incredibly towards the Liverpool deal. Parker says Branthwaite's overpriced anyway. How are Napoli going for Scott if they're going for Lukaku as well, says Luciano. Big up from New Zealand, Mark. You're a legend, says Samuel Turner. And for the last time, Amrabat is not a left back, says Keel. Thank you very much for that. Mark, remember the name Mason Melia, says Jake and Edwards. Liverpool don't want him. Why are we talking about this, says Wolfwall? Because Wolfwall, you were negative yesterday. You're very, very negative. Like, you are really negative. And I don't think you understand the concept of talking about the news. So I would just keep, go and have a walk or a coffee or something and try and put a smile on your face. You know what? If you're feeling negative this Monday morning, do you want a bit of Goldbridge positive mental attitude exercise, right? Whenever I wake up in the morning or wherever I've got to do something that I just think, I don't want to do it. You know what I do? I realise my mind is trapped in a deja vu situation because I've done it before. It's probably going to be the same again. For example, imagine if you've got to go round to your in-laws and you're like, oh God, what a waste of an afternoon that is. But if you think, well, just because it was a wasted afternoon last month, I've never done this before. I've never walked this path. It might be great. So I'd say to you, Wolfwall, if you're feeling negative this Monday morning, you've never lived this Monday morning before. It's as good as you make it. Stop getting into the routine of repetition. Oh, I've done this before, it's negative. Try and be positive. You've never walked this morning before. You've never seen this lunchtime before. And, use that positive mental attitude that you could make it great. Mark in DM for United to Sinner. Thank you very much. Right, I want to talk about a couple of other bits of transfer news, but I purposely skipped this on purpose because I think it's really important. So we've spoken about McTominay, we've spoken about the Branthwaite thing, and we've spoken about the potential for Sander Berge and Ugarte to come in. A bid has gone in for Sander Berge, but it's below the 30 million asking price that Burnley want. I think that the 30 million price for Sander Berge is too much, and I agree with Manchester United on that. But what I also wanted to sort of look at, look, I expect there'll be comments there again. He is not the Norwegian Rodri. There are a lot of Sheffield United fans. There are a lot of Norwegian fans who get in the comments and say Sander Berge is okay. I don't know why people are overhyping him. There seems to be some misconceptions about what he is as a player. I certainly haven't really noticed him since he nearly turned up at Carrington 3 years ago. I think at Sheffield United and Burnley, I would describe him as very unnoticeable, very okay. But But the misconceptions I find quite interesting, because a lot of people seem to think he's something that he's actually not. I think in fairness to Berge, he's probably better going forward than he is defensively. So what I've done is I've taken last season's stats and I've thrown Berge in with Wharton, Onana from Everton, Amrabat, Man United, Palhinha, Fulham, and Douglas Luiz from Villa. So I've not even gone with the Rodris or the Casemiros or the McAllisters. I've thrown him in with some pretty, okay Premier League midfielders from last season, but, not groundbreaking. So Douglas Luiz of Villa, Palhinha of Fulham, Wharton at Palace, Onana at Everton, Amrabat at Man United, and Sander Berge. Let's just compare some key things from last season. So average passes per 90. So our passes per 90 last season for those players. Sander Berge 43 in a possession-based side, Burnley. Wharton 44. Onana Everton 40. Amrabat at United 52. Palhinha at Fulham 44. And Douglas Luiz at Villa 50. So, he doesn't stand out as a pass master. Very, very average in relation to that. Defensive duels per 90, 6. Douglas Luiz, 6. Palhinha, 10. At Wharton, 7.5. Onana, 7. And Amrabat, 8. So again, as a defensive monster, doesn't really stand out. Wharton, Onana, Amrabat, Palhinha, all more active than he is, but around the same as Douglas Luiz. Recoveries per 90, so looking about what Mount and Mainu and Casemiro did really, really well at the weekend. Opponent half recoveries where you win the ball in the opponent's half. Sander Berge, 3.7. Palhinha, 3.5. Douglas Luiz, 2.7. Wharton, 4.1. Onana, 4.3. And Amrabat, 3.7. So, look, he does more than Palhinha and Luiz, but Palhinha and Luiz would be more sitting as a 6. Sander Berge, again, not as good as Wharton, not as good as Onana was at Everton, but about the same as Amrabat. So, again, he's not jumping out, but he's not bad, but he's certainly not a sitter. Own half losses per 90, so this can be a misplaced pass or caught in possession. Douglas Luiz, 2.1 losses per 90 in his own half, bad pass or losing possession. 3.7 for Palhinha, he does it quite a lot. 3.2 for Wharton, 2.7 for Onana, 3 for Amrabat, and 2.5 for Sander Berge. So, again, pretty okay, I would say. Now, defensive actions, successful defensive actions per 90. 6 Luiz, 13 Palhinha, 8 Berge, 9.3 Wharton, 9 Onana, and 8 Amrabat. So Berge and Amrabat are actually coming out quite similar here. The only other thing I wanted to do was attack progressive runs per 90. So a progressive run would be, it's not like walking forward 5 meters with the ball. It's carrying the ball like 15, 20 meters with, into space. 1.4 Douglas Luiz, virtually 0 Palhinha, because that's not what he's all about. 1.8 Sander Berge, under 1 for Wharton, 0.8. 0.8 Onana, 0.6 Amrabat. So Sander Berge comes out on top for progressive runs, which is carrying the ball forward. Successful dribbles per 90, 1.6 Douglas Luiz, 1.2 Palhinha, 1.3 Sander Berge, 1.2 Wharton, 1.1 Onana, 0.5 Amrabat. So I think, look, that very much gives you what my perception of Sander Berge is, but also it gives you a statistical background to it. I think people don't really understand what Sander Berge is. He is not a 6 sitter like someone like a Rodri could be, or a Casemiro could be, or a Declan Rice could be. I see him as more of an 8. He does, I think, I don't want to compare him to anybody else, but he ain't Norwegian Rodri. He's more of a Norwegian Longstaff. He's a ball carrier. He's an engine. He can put a tackle in, he can play a pass, but I just think he's distinctively okay. I don't see him as a game changer for Manchester United. Is he a step up on Scott McTominay? Well, he is, because he can play as an 8. I don't think McTominay can. So if he's an upgrade on McTominay, I get it. You know, he's tall. But I don't see him as a starter for Manchester United. I certainly don't see... What I was finding frustrating a couple of weeks ago was when people are talking about Berge, Mainu and Bruno midfield, and I'm like, oh my God, it's terrifying. He is not that defensive monster that you think he is. And I think some people, all right, I completely understand it. Not many people are watching Burnley and Sheffield United over the last few years. But you should have seen enough of him to know that he ain't on the radar of Manchester City, Arsenal, Spurs, Chelsea to be the super holding midfielder that those clubs maybe were looking for. He's an okay midfielder who I think is more of an 8. And it amazes me that people think that he is the alternative to Ugarte, who is very much a defensive monster. So for me, going back to what we were talking about at the start, if we're going for both, whilst Berge would not be my choice as the second midfielder, I'd be more comfortable with Amrabat because he's cheaper. They would be two very different midfielders to add to our roster. Hyen said, so we are supposed to be excited when Sir Jim said we want Manchester back into Manchester United and we want and bought a bunch of Dutch players. We need Chiesa from Juventus. He's still young and ready for 15 million, says Shahik. It's amazing how there's so little interest in Chiesa and Rabiot, isn't there? I'm feeling it's Ugarte or bust. I loved Casemiro's first season, but the guy's a liability, says Football Maniac. He did well. He's doing well at the moment, but I do feel that with Casemiro, he's had a good pre-season, he's fresh, and he's probably playing on his limit at the moment because he played well against Man City and he played well against Fulham. I don't think we've got more levels to Casemiro. I think what we're seeing is about as good as it's going to get from now on, and it could drop after the monotony and season starts to really get going. I need a shave before the midday pub show. Hi Mark, just a fun fact, Kadioglu is Dutch, having been born and raised there, similar to Amrabat and Mazraoui, who represented them from club and youth. Well, we better not buy him then, Jonathan, because you can guarantee certain people will be having a right old moan. Tamon says, we don't need a centre-back. Keep Maguire for a year. Maybe next season look for another young defender to be Oro's future partner. Look for a left-back and a CDM. Or look for a centre-back who can play at left-back as well. Or a left-back who can play centre-back as well. That would solve two problems, wouldn't it? Club 1878 makes a great comment, actually. Where are the unknown signings? I'm mostly happy with the window, but I thought Ashworth was big on upcoming unknowns as at Brighton, although it is early days, to be fair. I think you've answered your own question, mate. I think you make a very, very good point. Where are the unknown signings? Where are these players that come in on cheap deals that are future superstars? I completely agree with you on that one, but a flip side of that coin is, and you answered it yourself, is they've only just come into the club. It would be very difficult to be announcing, some young French player from League Two or a Brazilian from, the Argentinian league or an Argentinian from the Argentinian league, whatever, when we haven't really had enough time for that. I think that will come in the future. Having said that, there's the lad at Crystal Palace. I don't know whether we've finalised that deal yet. There's also Obi Martin who will come in as well. I know they're very, very young, but those deals will certainly happen. And I think there'll be plenty more to come too. So, yeah, but you make a good point. That is something that I think the South American market is certainly a market we have to start exploiting better. We don't have a great history of it, and there's some fantastic players there. Lindelof we spoke about last night. A few people asking about Ivan Toney. I think, look, we've got Fabrizio on at 2 o'clock, so we may as well ask a direct question. Is there any chance of Manchester United signing Ivan Toney? Thomas Frank spoke about it, and he basically said yesterday there are various things going on with Ivan, with transfer rumours and activity, and because of all that, we decided not to include him in the team. That was the club and me. It was made on Thursday. We thought it was the best thing. Ivan wants to play. He's a top player. He's been one of our best players, if not our best player for a long time. But we have these transfer stuff going on at the moment. So I think that I don't think Man United are active on Ivan Toney. So whatever talks are going on with Ivan Toney, I don't think it's Man United at the moment. I think it's Saudi by the sounds of it. Goldio with a super chat says, I've been saying all summer we need 2 midfielders, Ugarte and another. Personally, I'd go Amrabat and Ugarte. Either way, we need serious numbers in midfield. Thank you, Goldio. And Kyle says, is it time we just make Luke Shaw a full-time backup centre-back and buy a new left-back? Also, Ugarte and another signing with McTominay, Ericsson, Pellistri out. Kyle, you could make Luke Shaw full-time left-back, full-time left-sided centre-back cover. You could make him clean the dressing room. At the end of the day, it's still not going to stop him getting injured. I don't think reducing his workload will stop it. He's picking up injuries in training. He's coming back from a break injured. I mean, Luke Shaw played a Euros final, went on holiday for 3 weeks, came back, didn't play a game, got injured. So it doesn't matter whether you wrap him up in cotton wool. He'll be allergic to the wool and he'll be out for a month. Like, he's just injury prone. Like, I get what you're saying. Let's reduce his load. Let's use him as a left-sided centre-back. But, you know, he's just injury prone now. I hate saying it because I like the player. But Liam says, why is Chiesa so cheap and nobody's bidding? I don't have the answer to that. Raynal, welcome to Members Club. Absolute legend. Hope you're doing well. And Karan says, I would give Casemiro the benefit of the doubt, as it really is difficult to give your best in a toxic environment. Perhaps one more season of him, and we can bid him for farewell next season. I don't mind keeping him, mate. I certainly... I think if you've got Casemiro as a midfield option, you know, you're not a bad football club. What I'm saying is, let's not abandon Ugarte or any other midfielder to rely on Casemiro. That would be catastrophic. I don't mind keeping him. But somebody said, let's just not bother with Ugarte and go with Casemiro. I think that's absolutely footballing suicide to do that. There has also been a comment coming in from the Napoli director, Giovanni Mana. He's been talking about Scott McTominay. He says, McTominay and Billy Gilmore are very good players, but they're not our players, so no comment. Full focus on the game, and then we will focus again on transfers. And I think that was before. Pletterberg has apparently come out and said that United are still not interested in a move for Toney this summer, despite it looking like he will depart Brentford. Strong interest is believed to be initiated from the Saudi Pro League. Yeah. Yeah, I think that'd be a waste of time. More on McTominay. Okay. Yeah, I think that's certainly where we are with that. Jose says, do you plan to have a Latino United stand member? I don't actually... the way we work at the United stand, we don't wake up in the morning and say we'd like to have that type of a presenter, or, you know, that's not how it works, mate. If you're good enough, you're old enough. Is that the way? Sally Devil Red 7 says, although I wouldn't mind an AI bridge. I do a lot of shows. I wouldn't mind an AI bridge. That would be good. Sally Devil Red 7, and maybe AI bridge, we could give a bit of a, you know, they could do it in, maybe AI bridge could be Latino or Russian. No, maybe not Russia at the moment. That wouldn't do well. Well, it would do well in Russia, I suppose. Is there many Man United fans in Russia? Let's not go down this road. Sally Devil Red 7, legendary moderator, has gifted 5 memberships this morning. Absolutely fantastic. I haven't missed your super chat, Matty. I haven't missed it. Transfers aside, here's some pennies for a coffee, Mark. Enjoy your day. Thank you. Always love that sort of thing, Wade. It's not really a YouTube thing, but I like it. Done that about Kadioglu. Matty says, Leif Davis, Anthony Robinson, Alfie Doughty, genuine gems out there for left back. Liverpool bought similar profile in Robertson, need to go down this route. I think, look, Matty, there are so many good left back options out there. And I don't know whether anyone else gets frustrated, but I get frustrated by the same old shit. You know, Ben Chilwell, Reguilon, Marcus Alonso. Why aren't we talking about the players that you've just mentioned there? Because, you know, if you get Dotti from, I can never pronounce his name, but if you get the lad from Luton, they're not going to charge the earth for that. They're in the bloody Championship. And he's hungry, he's motivated. You know, we want... the thing I don't understand is that why are we looking at Reguilon or Marcus Alonso or Ben Chilwell when we all know, and Ineos have even spoken about it, that we want personality, mentality, consistency and hunger. Are you going to get consistency and hunger from a 32-year-old Alonso? Are you going to get consistency and hunger from Reguilon, who's had more clubs than Tiger Woods? And are you going to get consistency and hunger from Ben Chilwell, who's loaded because of the Chelsea deal, and spends more time on the treatment table than he does on the training ground? And so I don't know why. We're not just moaning because they're not lackluster. We're moaning because they don't actually tick the box. I rather would go for the lad from Luton who would come in hungry to succeed than go for short-term stopgaps who don't actually fit in with what we want to do. Would you go for Raheem Sterling, says Zeus? It's funny enough, I'm live in the Goldbridge Arms on That's Football for our Premier League review show. Got some great topics to talk about there. We'll be talking about how shit VAR is. We'll talk about that Sterling stuff. Also going to talk about whether United were lucky and a few other bits as well. But did you see that Eze free kick as well? What's that all about? I tell you what, if that happened to United against Fulham and we'd drawn 0-0 or lost, I'd still be moaning about that 3 days later. Fair play to Crystal Palace fans. You must have the patience of a saint. That is absolutely disgusting. If you haven't seen it, it's a free kick to Crystal Palace. It's like a position where you might cross. He curls it into the front post and it goes in. The referee instantly blows because he thinks he sees a foul in the box. The ball's not even going in the box and it's not a foul. Like the ball goes nowhere near where everybody's sort of pushing and shoving. It goes in the near post and he calls it. It was absolutely disgusting. On a weekend of shocking decisions, and thank God none happened in the United against Fulham, absolutely disgusting. Anyway, we'll be getting into all that at 12 o'clock on the That's Football new Premier League review show. How can we start Yoro? He's 18, says Constantine. I don't know, what's age got to do with it? Good morning, Mark. 18k in the chat, says Jose. Yeah, good morning, legends. Don't forget, on here, at 2 o'clock, we've got Fabrizio. Hato seems perfect if Branthwaite is off. I do like the idea of Hato, Tamon, but I'm not going to pretend I've seen a lot of him. Ipswich goalkeeper looks like Phil Neville, says 56 Circular. Okay, that's great to know. And also, let's just have a look. Same old shite from the official society. It's not acceptable though, is it? It isn't acceptable. Would you try getting Matty Cash? No. It was more of a ref error than VAR, says Trevor. Yeah, but I don't know whether VAR could have said, "What are you doing, you knobhead?" But something's got to do. Apparently the referee admitted after it was a mistake as well. If we don't sign a left back before the close of the window, we're screwed, says Stanley. I like that comment. I think actually, let me just run a poll on this. This is why we love to freestyle. What's more important? If you can only pick one, I'm going to say Ugarte, left back. What's more important? You can only sign one. I think we'll get both, but you can only sign one. Ugarte or a left back. And that left back can be any left back you want. It can be Afonso Davies. It can be Gutierrez, Hermoso, whoever you want. Ugarte or that. For me, the number 6 is more important. The left back will cost us points this season if we don't have one, 100%. But the game is won and lost in the midfield. It's central. It's the hub. It's the heart. And if we don't have Ugarte in, because I don't see an alternative to him that's worth even mentioning, if we don't bring Ugarte in and we're relying on Casemiro all season, we will get beat with Casemiro, and we will get beat when Casemiro is not available as well. He's still going to get a lot of suspensions. He still will get some red cards as well, and that probably doesn't get mentioned enough. But we are not good enough in the midfield at all. I think we'll be all right, and we did all right against Fulham. In the short term, Casemiro's fine, but long term, can he do it every week? No. Can he be consistent every week? We don't know. Will he be available every week? Absolutely not. So we have to. I think Ugarte is more important than a left back, but I think they're both very important positions, and that's why when Fabrizio says Man United want one, maybe two more, it's got to be those two positions. Because conversely, if you haven't got a left back, look at Delot on Friday night. Now, I'm not saying Rashford was brilliant, and I'm not saying it's an excuse, but Rashford plays better with Luke Shaw because Luke Shaw knows how to play as a left back to naturally overlap. If Delot overlaps, I don't even know if the Fulham right back even gives him a second look because his left foot cross isn't that good. If Luke Shaw overlaps, you're never not going to go with him because you know he's got a good cross on him. So we don't have that down the left-hand side. We don't have a viable overlap, and that makes Rashford's job harder. Or Garnacho's job harder, whoever's playing on the left. Not only that, defensively you're weaker when you don't have a left back, because if you're up against someone like Mo Salah and you're not a left back, he's going to tear you a new one. So we do need a left back, absolutely. I like Collier and I like Amas, but I said this in the summer. We can all get hyped up on pre-season and we can all talk about how good they are and they're ready. But the story of being ready is already written within this football club, whether it's Paul Scholes, David Beckham, Garnacho, Mainu, whatever. You very, very, very rarely get thrown in and be the starting left-back centre midfielder for Manchester United. The story is actually to be more progressive and to, give them time to develop. And, it's in and out, it's progressive, and that's what Manchester United need to do. So a left-back and a holding midfielder are absolutely essential, but I'll repeat myself, I don't really know why we're being linked with journeymen left-backs who aren't going to be motivated in a short term. Let's get somebody hungry in. We saw it with Mazraoui. Mazraoui was very hungry on Monday, and you saw that there's a point to prove. De Ligt will be like that as well. Ugarte will be like that as well. Xerxes will be like that. The profile of player that we've brought in is actually very, very correct. Hungry players with a point to prove. So why bring a left back in who's a journeyman? Get a left back who's got something to prove. A 7 out of 10 left back who's hungry and consistent is way better than an 8 out of 10 left back who's just here for the money to do whatever. And so I don't know why we're being linked to those types of left backs. Maybe that's all we can afford though. Gleb says, who do you think's more likely for the move, Ugarte or Berge? I still think Ugarte. I'm very confident on that. Stefano says, I love Ten Hag, but what is the point of buying De Ligt and still playing Maguire? Can't be about fitness because apparently he was fitter than Mazraoui. I think it must have been about fitness on Friday, mate. I mean, yeah, you're telling me that Ten Hag spent the last 2 months trying to sign a player that he made in De Ligt and then went, you know what, you're on the bench because Maguire's better than you. I think that he obviously just felt De Ligt. There must have been something about De Ligt that wasn't worth starting him on Friday. The interesting thing is, will he start on Saturday? Because I think he should, if he bought him to be a starting centre-back. But there is a case to be said that Maguire played well, so Maguire should start. But I think De Ligt needs to get in that team ASAP. Because if we play against Brighton and Maguire makes a mistake and we lose, everyone will say he should have started De Ligt. So look, with all the best intentions, that's what the Man United manager's there to do. Why didn't we play Mazraoui left back and Delot at right back, says Timon? Maybe because it was Mazraoui's first game, we wanted to play him in his position to make his job a little bit easier. Maybe that was what that was all about. Anyhow, look. Anyhow. Thanks everybody for tuning in this morning. Absolute legends. Of course, we will be reacting to any breaking news. Do not miss my show from the Goldbridge Arms in about an hour's time. We are reviewing the Premier League weekend. I think you're going to love it. I think you're going to love it. If you love football, you're going to love it. Because unlike other shows, we're actually going to shoot from the hip. My bad hip. But loads to talk about. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of debate. It's live. You can get involved in that and have your opinion. So excited for this, for the new season. And then at 2 o'clock, we're back here with Fabrizio. So get in the comments if there's anything you want us to discuss. We've got most things covered, I think. The left-back situation, Berge, midfield, Ugarte, Tony, the lot. But outgoings as well. We'll see you at 2 o'clock. let's get ready to rumble. I'll see you all later. Take care. Stay safe.